Well, welcome to the Ministry Chick Network podcast, where we encourage, equip, and empower women of faith to lead with clarity, confidence, and purpose. I'm your host, Melissa Mashburn, the Chief Encouragement Officer here at the Ministry Chick Network. And today I'm joined by my friend Lisa J. Allen. She is a life coach, an author, a speaker with over 2 decades of leadership experience through the Proverbs 31 Ministries and Forest Hill Church. Lisa has such a heart for helping women move from self-doubt to self-confidence and self-leadership so that they can live out their God-given calling. If you have ever wrestled with feeling stretched too thin, uncertain, stuck in your next step, I know I'm raising my hands for all of these. This conversation will bring you peace, perspective, and my favorite, practical wisdom. So, Lisa, I am so excited that we finally get to have this conversation today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And so am I. I've been looking forward to it all day today.
Good. Well, I know you. I'm sure other people know you, but for those that are meeting you for the first time today, can you share a little bit about yourself, your family, ministry journey, and what you're doing today?
For sure, for sure. So I've been married for 36 years, my husband and I, and we have 2 grown children who are married and live in Charlotte, which is where we live. Yay, that they're local. And we have an 18-month-old grandson who is amazing. And so our first grandchild, excited about that. We have a really, really old dog that's under my desk right now named PJ, a Yorkie, so I hope he stays quiet.
Yeah.
A little bit about my what I do professionally is I am branded as a confidence coach, but I'm a coach, an author and speaker. Was a preacher's kid. My father's with Jesus now, but 42 years he was in ministry. So I have a real passion for the local church and for pastors' wives. I have a real heart for pastors' wives, ministry leaders. As you said, I was on staff at Forest Hill Church, women's director, life group director for about 7 years. Fast forwarded 10 years as an executive director at Proverbs 31 Ministries. I'm still on their speaker team. And then when my dad died, I needed a little bit more flexibility than that executive director role allowed me. So for the past 4 years, I relaunched my coaching and speaking, and that's what I do. 75% of my work is in the faith-based world. 25% because I'm super passionate about all personality assessments. And so I'm certified in a lot of them. And so about 25% of my work is in the corporate world because they love, DISC and strengths finders and Enneagram and all that. So,
oh, that's so good. I can't wait. We're going to be going there today. But what inspired your passion to help women grow in confidence and lead from a place of authenticity? Because before we even started recording, you and I were talking about how important authenticity was to both of us.
But authenticity is my number one core value. When I worked with my coach 20 plus years ago, she led me in my first ever values assessment.
Yeah.
And it's my number one core value. But I think audiences and women are getting savvier than 25 years ago, and they can sniff out inauthenticity, right? So authenticity is important. But one of my top 10 Gallup Strength Finder strengths is developer. So I have a passion to grow women, but to grow them forward, right? To help them see how God sees them, pull out the gifts, give them a chance to use the gifts, and then put it. So that's part one of what made me start this. But confidence, I noticed as my confidence grew in ministry, and it grows every day. It's not like check that box, right? Like I still have the cycle.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that part in.
1000%. In fact, you'll see the beginning of my book is about me having to talk myself to go onto a beach dinner for what I was hired to do because I had no confidence to go out and do what I was hired to do. And so I talked myself into it. But I find that women believe the lie, and it is a lie, that you are either born with confidence or you're not.
Mm.
And if they don't feel confident, then they feel like that boat sailed. And that's where imposter syndrome comes in
Yeah.
and such. And so I have found through years of coaching women that God has given us buckets and handed us a shovel. And if we'll do the work to dig up some confidence and cultivate it, we will find the confidence we need
Mm.
as we approach different areas of our lives.
Oh, that's so good. I love that he's giving you that insight, but it's born from your own experience.
For
So it's
sure.
not like you were necessarily born from it. You did the work, you cultivated it, and now you're like, "Hey, I just want other people to be able to go and do the thing that I have been able to do."
Absolutely. And like I said, you'll see that like even in the end of my book, this is a cycle. We
Okay.
might find like we might have an area of our life that we constantly have to go back and cultivate the confidence. Or we might find, and I find this to be true, Melissa, the closer we get to 40 plus,
Mm-hmm.
it is we find that there's a lot of things that we have to learn to self-accept that we've never
Mm.
really faced before. So it could be downsizing in a role
Yeah.
that we have. It could be, our body betrays us. Can I get an amen about
Again.
a hormone will mess a sister up, right?
Yes.
And so,
It's a sweep the leg moment for sure because you know it's coming, but you don't you you can anticipate it, but until it actually comes, you're like, oh, that was worse than I expected.
and we somehow think it's going to be different, right?
Right,
Even if we've heard the stories for
right.
all of our life. But, and so there are even women that maybe have muscled through problem solving, strategy, vision, yeah, very high achieving women, you will hit a crisis of confidence at some point.
Mm,
So the more we can build those muscles through our
that's
lives,
good.
the more we'll be prepared.
That's so good. Well, so you shared a little bit because you've had a lot of experience in different places, but they've all been really strong leadership positions. So from Proverbs 31 Ministries, Forest Hill Church, and now your own coaching practice, how did God clarify your own calling
Mm.
in those seasons?
Yeah, well, a lot of different ways, a lot of different ways. Passion, right?
Hmm.
Started by giving me passion. Giftings, like
Hmm.
there's some wiring, creative design is what I call it. Opportunities, like
Okay.
he's given opportunities, but first and foremost, it started with prayer, right? And so really that dailiness, that consistency with God, where he begins to build an assignment and you begin to see patterns toward it. And then once you take that, I found
Mm.
that there were people in my life that called it out. So my
Okay.
mentor still to this day, Marianne Ruff, she was the women's director when my kids were in preschool. They're now 31 and 33. And she just took risks on developing me and putting me
Wow.
in positions where I might do a great job, I might, but
Right.
she really developed me.
Mm.
And Marilyn Chadwick, our senior pastor's wife, did the same thing. There've just been women in my life that have developed, grown, and invested in me, but they also held a mirror up to what God's assignment might be. They gave me the
Okay.
courage to
Mm.
see the calling. They gave me the resources to develop my
That's
calling,
amazing.
much of what you do all day, every day, Melissa, with other women. And again, you begin to be able to see God speaking in different ways. And so my very first retreat assignment, right before I was asked, first speaking engagement other than announcements at church, the day before I had this awful migraine, and I can count on one hand in 62 years how many migraines I've had.
Mm.
Um, and the next day they asked me to speak at the retreat, and I did a really bad job, but they loved me through it anyways.
Nice.
But but that was years ago. But to this day, I'm having some weird back issues, and I have learned that sometimes when God is preparing me for something,
Mm.
there will be sometimes a physical wrestling.
Okay.
And so I've even
Good.
paid attention to
That's
those
good.
kind of patterns in my life too. I wouldn't have known it back laying on the bed with the migraine, but in
Hmm.
retrospect, I look back and I go, oh, I
Mm.
wonder if this has to do with something God's preparing me for.
That's good. Well, it's an awareness, right? It's awareness of what's happening. I also heard you say it's an awareness of your giftings, how God wired you. but it's also trusted mentors, leaders,
Yes.
friends that will speak into, have those I see in you conversations where they're affirming, or
Yes.
even like your pastor's wife did in the women's ministry, like fanning that gift into flame for you.
Yes. Yeah, or
Um,
not, as the case may be. Like they
right,
might
right.
think you have this gifting,
True.
and the
That's fair.
right godly leader might be like, I see you more over here
Yes.
than this.
Yes.
And they also have taught me, and this is just from, I think, being seasoned through the years. What the Lord has taught me most in ministry leadership is that we need to learn over and over again to thicken our skin versus hardening our heart.
Mm,
And
that is preaching.
And it's hard because thickening your
Hmm.
skin involves time and patience and grieving and
Hmm.
forgiveness and laying down offense and everything,
Yes. Oh my
and it's
goodness.
easier to harden our heart. And so all the people that have been mentors to me,
Yeah.
they help me with that. They help
Yeah.
me thicken my skin without letting my heart get hard.
Oh man. Oh, that's so, so good. Okay. So for the woman who is listening right now, who's unsure of her direction, how can
Mm,
she begin to discern what God is calling her to do right now?
yeah. Well, going back, start with God, ask,
Mhm.
ask for his eyes to see, gather your girls, who is it? Who are your people that are going
Mhm.
to speak into you, obviously. But here's three words, well, really four words that I use when I teach calling workshops, purpose,
Okay.
calling workshops. And they are who, do, and follow through. So let
Okay.
me unpack that. Who, if God placed you in a position of passion, who would be the people group or cause that you're serving? And
Okay.
so, for example, is it divorcees? Is it my husband's 35 years sober? His is addiction, right? Like
Okay.
he is calling. Maybe it has to do with foster care. Maybe it
Okay.
has to do with abuse. So, who, if you were placed in a fully functioning calling,
Okay.
um, who are the people that kind of draw your heart closer?
Mhm.
And then do, if you had a chance to work with them, what would you do with or for them? So
Mm.
for me, my calling, the who is women. The do is I'm called to equip, to encourage, to inspire, and to train, right? And so those are the words. So
Yeah.
I know my who, I know my do, and then follow through. If God opened those doors to that people group and
Yeah.
to do those things that make you passionate, what's the follow through? What is different because you followed through with that? So
Mm.
it might be kids won't go to bed hungry. It might be women walking confidence
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
it. It might be adults learn how to bring foster children into their home and deal
Mhm.
with everything that means. But I think God gives all of us a who, God gives all of us a do. And when we start taking steps toward that, that's when we begin to see that follow through, that
Yeah.
something's different
Mm.
because we've used our lives for his kingdom. And again, that goes back to prayer, that goes back to people.
Yeah.
It might mean going to school, right? It
Okay.
might mean going to
Yep.
school. It might be you're doing a lot of research, but begin to pay attention what brings your heart alive. And
Hmm. Yeah, I love that because it's that you can feel when there's a quickening in your spirit and you just start to get. I like to tell people it's when you're like and you can't even stop yourself because you're just like there are things that I do that I'm like that after my husband's like, please call a friend before you call me because you are like, right? Because I'm like, I'm amped up, I'm like pumped, I'm so excited, and I'm just like,
energy.
oh God, and you've got all of this thing. But I'd also, you said when you talked about gather your girls, I just want to add on to that. Make sure that these are women or men that know you, love you, and that you trust their
Yes.
insight, like that they have your good
Yes.
at the forefront, not just yes. You don't want just yes people around you, and you don't want
Correct.
somebody that's going to try to talk you out of what God's trying to tell you to do. So
Correct.
there's a heart intention about
1000.
who you're putting around
Mm.
to speak into that.
And that's part of that thickening your skin versus hardening your heart is the
There.
discernment to know.
Yep.
As if you walk around the block a couple times in life, you're going to be able to figure out not everybody is for you.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't even mean they're bad people. It just
Or
means
that they're against you.
yeah, yes,
Right.
yes. Yeah. And the other thing I would say too is pay attention to the pain that you've suffered in your life. Sometimes,
Mm.
not always, but
Right.
there's such a tremendous amount of aim that comes from our pain. And sometimes our greatest aimed life comes from some things we've suffered through and we've watched God carry us to the other side. And that begins, we see peace from that perspective. And then that turns into some passion. So pay attention to the pain as well.
Oh, I talk to women all the time that are in that season
Mm,
of like,
mm,
what's God asking me to do now? Like, I know who I am. I know who he wired me to be, or know how he wired me to be, but I'm feeling like this change or this thing, right? And
for sure.
so I hope that that was just a really good word. So your new book, that your confidence compass tackles self-doubt.
Mm,
Oh man,
yeah.
what have you learned about building confidence from the inside out?
Mm. Well, first of all, it is an inside job, right? Nobody else can come and build your confidence
No.
but you.
Mm.
Um, and so I would say there's 6 common buckets that we can cultivate with the shovel that God gives us. And we have to do the work. We can't just sit
Mhm.
back and go, okay, here they are. The first bucket is connecting with your creator because our identity has to begin and end with God.
Yeah.
Any confidence that comes outside of our creator is going to be short-lived at best.
Mm.
And it's going to be
That's good.
fickle to the winds of title, promotion, zip code, all that mess. And so, I mean, I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but it has to begin and end with the creator. The second is cultivating the right mindset.
Good.
Our mindset is incredibly powerful. And so as we think thoughts, we know this, we're smart women, we've read the research that the more we think a thought, it creates a groove in our brain.
Yep.
But that groove might actually be a rut. And so
Yep.
we have to learn to rewire and get a new groove. And so cultivating, that's the second
Okay.
bucket is cultivating the right mindset. The third is understanding, surprise, surprise, your creative design.
Mm.
What are your spiritual gifts? What are your values? What's your basic personality type, whatever
Yeah.
it is, because that's how you're going to do your calling.
Yep.
That's how your confidence grows. So if you are highly reserved, say you're a C on the disc, maybe for instance, you're reserved versus outgoing and assertive. If you're waiting until you naturally are assertive to grow confidence, you're going to be waiting a long time. Now, that
Right.
doesn't mean you don't develop that. There are going to be
Right.
seasons that you got to go out there and be assertive, right? Or you have to be maybe slightly more charismatic than is within your framework. But you have to work with your natural creative design. Your life experiences fall into that bucket as well.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
that gives you confidence, this accepting what God has put in you and accepting what he has left out of you as the
Got it.
woman you can walk. The fourth thing is your calling. And again, that's that do, who, and follow through that we just talked about. What is your purpose?
Okay.
At some point, we all get to the point where we need some degree of kingdom purpose in our life. It doesn't mean you do it full time for a
Right.
living.
Right.
It means evenings or weekends or once a month or with your Bible study, you have to develop
Mm.
that calling. The fifth bucket is community. That's where we gather together in meaningful community. This is where the kind of people that speak of us when we're not in the room, that we
Yeah.
grow together. They point us to Jesus. They feed us God's word.
Mm.
They lift us up when we want to fall down. But they also hold mirrors up to us. They hold us accountable.
Right.
They cheer on our calling, right? They
Mhm.
cheer it on. But that mirror that they hold up might also show us a blind spot that we need
Oh,
to
that's
work on.
good.
That's that self-awareness that
That's
we
good.
need. We can't see everything. And so community is really important. And then
Mm.
the sixth bucket is consistency. These are growing and developing the habits that will serve you
Mhm.
for the calling that you have. And that's everything from financial habits to spiritual habits to recreational habits, physical health, mental health,
Right.
mammograms, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
We have to develop the consistency of habits that support the confident life we want.
Oh my goodness. So much. There was
I know.
so much in there that I was like, oh, we could spend a whole hour talking about one bucket. Um,
Yes.
and it was, I love that. I love the buckets. The book is amazing. The cover
Thank
is fabulous. All the little things that you did with it when you launched were
Thank you.
so good. I want to go back to the community element. That's a big thing for me. And the fact that what I hear you saying is this is a lifelong growing process. This isn't like I got to 25 and I figured out who I am. Ta-da! I'm done. It's I'm going to continue to show up for myself. I'm going to learn. I'm going to put myself in community. I'm going to grow. I'm going to take care of myself. And along the way, I'm going to have more confidence in who I am and how God wired me. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. I believe when we cultivate our confidence through all these different areas, we can walk into any room being ourselves
Yes.
and not feel we have anything to prove,
Right.
and not feel threatened. We can, when we do this inner work, it's ironic because we have to do all that self-awareness and self-leadership, the inner work, so that we can then receive the confidence, and then it's not even about us anymore. Then we
Right.
can make room for other people because we've already done the inner work. And
Yes.
so I hear a lot of people say, well, isn't that selfish? And I'm like, if you never move off yourself, that's
Right.
selfish. But there are so many women that aren't taking the time to go, why am I thinking that thought over and over again?
Right.
Why is every time I'm in this particular board meeting, do I shut down? Am I paralyzed with indecision? Right? We have to be thinking about those kind of things. And that gives us the freedom to move in the circles that God is sending us into.
We don't drift into growth.
Oh,
we
so good.
we we drift the other way, right? We drift in. Have you ever been out in the ocean and you're like, I'm just gonna go sit down in my little swimmy thing, and the next thing you know, you're like, where is everybody? I don't even know where I am,
Absolutely.
because we have drifted
Yes.
miles
Yes.
off course. And I think that's, I mean, sure, we would love to be, I would have loved to figured all of this out in my 20s, but I don't think that I was ready for it. And I know that it wasn't until I got to my 40s that I was like, oh, wait a minute. And now in my 50s, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is who I am. This is how God wired me. This is what I bring to the table. And it's not from a cockiness, and um I don't even know if I'd call it self-confidence, but I know who I am. But
Yes.
it's a Godfidence. It's the I know how God wired me.
Yes.
So I know what I bring to the table. So I love that you put all of these pieces and parts of our story, our wiring. And I tell people that all the time when we start coaching. I'm like, listen, it's not going to make any sense. But the first 3 or 4 sessions, we're going backward, because we have to
Amen.
build a foundation
For
before
sure.
we start mapping out a plan to move forward.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's all. I mean, if I've only got this many sessions, why are we using this many?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we need to get, where are you right now? How are you wired? What are
Yeah.
your values? Like
Yeah.
all of those things, so that we build that firm foundation to go
The
forward.
foundation. And
Right.
because all of those things, because you know this as you coach, they tell you why you do what you do. They tell you
Yes.
how to tap into motivation. They tell you
Right.
how you're going to sabotage yourself, right? And so the more that we can get into that and understand it, and again, it's peaceful self-acceptance. It's not
Right.
arrogance going, look at me, right?
Right.
But it is peaceful self-acceptance. And I find a lot of women really struggle
Mhm.
with peacefully self-accepting themselves as God
Mhm.
has made them and the season that they're in.
100%. And you talk about self leadership.
Yeah.
What does that look like in an everyday life, right? In your everyday, ordinary life, for a woman who's balancing ministry, work, family, and you're a PK,
Yeah.
and you've been
Yeah.
in the ministry space, and have a family. What does self leadership look like for for her?
Well, first and foremost, you can't get to self-leadership until you start with self-awareness. And so you have to really begin to examine yourself on a regular basis. So, for example, as a 3 on the Enneagram, I'm not a big feelings. I know. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Hello, threes.
Motivators.
Yes.
I'm not a big feeler. So I need a feelings wheel. I mean, I'm a feeler for you. But when it comes to sitting down, like my best friend, one of my community holds up a mirror and she goes, "Are you letting yourself feel this right now? Like, can I check on you?" And
Oh,
and
wow.
in a sweet way, right? When like
Yes.
hard because
She's
I
been given the agency to be able to do that with you.
correct,
Right.
correct. And so it starts with self-awareness, but oftentimes we might be aware of a lot, but what we're aware of, we have to ask the question, what behavioral change do I need to make based on what I'm aware of, right? How do I move forward? And
Right.
that's where it goes to self-leadership. So one of the
Right.
examples I have years and years ago on a committee that I was on one time, there was a D on probably an 8. I don't know if we did Enneagram back then, but they were visionary, they were creative, strategic, very direct, great leader. But of their own admission, they would admit that they blew people up in meetings.
Mm.
And
Wow.
that just means they're a little bit direct, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that's been in a meeting with a
Right.
with a middle to unhealthy D at some point, and we all go to middle and unhealthy, not just D's, right? And so
Right.
anyway, I heard a lot about this self-awareness. This person would admit it, sorry, I know I did it, blah, blah, blah. But through the year, it never changed. And so
Right.
if your self-awareness without self-leadership, I say,
Oh,
is just a lot of information.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, if you don't
Wow.
do something with it, you
Yes.
might say, why is it every time I go into that Tuesday morning meeting, I get nervous or I feel invisible? Or like you have to really begin to get curious and be
Right.
self-aware. And then what do I need to do? And that has a lot to do with listening to God, right? It
Mhm.
might be setting a boundary. It might be having a deeper conversation with somebody. It might be advocating for yourself. There might be a lot of reasons that God will give you to take action on something, but
Mm.
you can't leave it at just self-awareness. It has to go all the way through to self-leadership.
I love that. There's gotta be some skin in the game. You gotta take the action off of the information
For
that
sure.
you've learned. Otherwise, like you said, it's just a
Yeah.
lot of information
And
about
vice
yourself.
versa. Yes, vice versa. If you self-lead and you're not self-aware, then you're a bull in a china shop. Right. And so
Oof.
like you're just like going through life.
Right.
So they work hand in hand together. And that, of course,
That's good.
also involves self-reflection and self-acceptance and
Yeah.
all of that.
Oh,
And I
that's
don't
good.
believe any of that's selfish. It's only selfish if it stays there.
Right. Right. That's a good clarifying comment on that. If it's only always about you and
Yes.
how you feel and how you show up and all those things, and it doesn't translate into action or changed behavior,
Yes.
that's a different thing. Okay,
Yes.
so let's talk about capacity
Yeah.
because this is something that every leader struggles with, and more women. I don't know about you, but there have been times in different roles that I've had 5 different titles. Like we didn't even know which one to put on the business card. So,
Oh my
and
God.
then that was also mom, pastor, pastor's wife, all of that thrown in there. So,
Mm.
how can women discern their capacity and lead without burning out?
Yeah. Well, when I work with clients on capacity, we get out the trusty rubber band because the rubber band represents, are you in a stretch season? Most women are going to say, yes, I am. So the job with capacity is we need to learn to adjust before we combust. And so I am not going to beat you up because you're in a stretch season. The problem is we stay stretched.
Mm,
So the six week lie or 90-day lie, Melissa, is when
yep,
board meetings over, when the
yep,
holidays get here, when the kids are in school, when the kids are out of school, right?
right.
There's going to be something then, right? So if you're
Yes.
stretched now you're going to be stretched, and even when something pops out of the rubber band, because there's all these things. So we have to get some elasticity into it. Well, Ecclesiastes 3 talks about the elasticity. So I would ask all of those listening, I ask myself the same thing. The priorities that you have in your life, are they in your rubber band? So is it, if you need to work on your marriage, is there room for that? If you need extra time with a child or two, if you have aging parents, right? If you need to go back to school, something. If these are the priorities, are they inside your rubber band? And if they're not, what do you need to do to make room for them? What needs to be taken out? Maybe it served you really well, but it's not. Maybe you need to pause it for a year.
Right.
Don't be PTA president this year, or don't volunteer for this, right? Whatever it is. But we need to get really good at understanding is there anything inside our rubber band that needs to be out? And is there anything especially important and valuable to us that needs priority within it? And we need margin. We need to have some space, because we're actually managing a lot of adrenaline, but we're calling it living a life.
Oh, that one hurts. That one hurts a little. And I get it. I get it. I have been that rubber band that is stretched too far for decades. And honestly, it wasn't until I got a little older and my body was like, yeah, we're done. We're done with that. And then I started having a lot of medical issues because I wasn't taking care of myself in those seasons, because I was already so stretched thin that it was easy to put myself back and back and back and not go to my annual appointments and do all of those things. So when the rubber band finally broke, and it broke, it was, okay, well now you've got years of stuff you have to take care of because you didn't. And honestly, it takes a little while for your body to get out of that mode, and you have no idea what that fight or flight or that stretched, too thin is doing to your body. So yeah, it has some tremendous adverse effects that, trust me, as a seasoned woman, you don't want to wait until you get to that point. So if you're listening and you're not in your 50s or older, please
do it now. I like with clients, I call it flossing your teeth. If you wait to need a root canal to floss your teeth, it's too late,
Yes.
And I don't mean literally flossing your teeth,
yes.
But you know what I mean.
You should. That's amazing. Well, you spent years, decades of your life pouring into women to help them step into their calling. What's one leadership lesson that continues to shape how you lead even today?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I was good at this early on, but it's something that the Lord is demanding of me over the last 10 years.
That's a good word.
It is curiosity. Oh. So curiosity, again, curious. We already talked about being curious about who we are in Christ and our wiring and everything. But when we begin to do that, a natural maturing believer, that curiosity will then be extended to, oh, I wonder who my husband is. Like, this is his wiring. Oh, guess what? This is what the person on my board is like. And so we extend understanding people's values. We understand that to other people. And that helps us live Romans 12:18. So far as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. I call it monovision, that we're looking at ourselves with one contact lens. I have two contact lenses. One is near, one is far. That's monovision, right? Yeah. And so one can look at me, but then the other one is like, well, who are the people around me? Now, that's for wiring and stuff, but that also applies to, I'm curious about your generation, what their needs are. That we're different in generations. Yeah. I'm curious politically, like I wonder if I walked in the same shoes that you've walked in, I wonder if I would fall in the same ideas that you're having politically. It could be denominationally. Sometimes we have to have curiosity is such a healthy thing. We can be curious and never lose a conviction. Yeah. And so I just wish I was more curious with other leaders maybe that I've worked with that I've misunderstood or have felt misunderstood by
Right, right, right.
through the years. I just think we learn, how do we compliment each other? How do we complicate each other? What am I doing to complicate
Exactly.
this
Right.
relationship? Because at some point, relationships mean so much,
Mhm.
whether it's in ministry or just with your children or
Right.
your in-laws. I'm even curious about my grandson. I'm curious about new ways to parent nowadays. Rather than kind of judging it, I'm just
Right.
like thinking, going, well, I'm curious about that. And it
Yeah.
it brings this broadened development and it builds peace.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's so much more peaceful
Yeah.
for everyone involved. And I think there's a level when you were talking, I kept thinking curiosity is kindness because you're really caring. It's love. You're really caring enough to ask the questions instead of assuming or
Yeah.
judging or being critical or anything else.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't understand, or why is that, or and not from a because my way is the right way.
Yeah.
It's just genuinely, huh? Well, I wonder if that's why blah 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 blah, and it
Well,
just it invites a kindness to
correct.
the conversation, but also to the relationship.
For sure. For sure. And it's even more important because most of the women listening to this are in ministry.
Mhm.
Because we tend to think that curiosity is saved for people that are voting different than us or live in a different culture than we do or a different side of the country than we do, right? Like
Right,
it's a north-south thing or something.
right,
This is happening in your staff meetings.
yes,
Right? You're sitting there and all of a sudden you feel it rise within you, like, here we go again. Like you don't say it, but if you're thinking it, that's
right,
a great time to
right.
go, I need to be curious about this and not be,
Mm.
so judgmental about it.
I love that. So let me ask you this. What is one small practical action that our listeners can take this week to help grow their confidence and
Mhm.
expand their capacity in a healthy way?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to self-examination. Like
Okay.
I'm going to go, there's a daily examine.
Okay.
That is, Peter Scazzaro talks about it. It's an
Okay. Yep.
ancient practice and everything. Well, a daily examine is putting yourself under the light of God, right? And
Mm,
letting him examine you through the lens of scripture, worship, prayer, all of that.
that's good.
And so this is the reason that self-examination isn't selfish. It's really putting yourself, what am I going to face today, God? That I need to be aware of, that I need to
Mm,
be more patient with, that I need to be, what happened yesterday that I'm carrying in today? Where is my heart hardening?
yeah. Yeah.
It's the condition of our hearts is really, when I say self-examination, we are caring for the health of our hearts, keeping it soft and pliable.
Yeah.
We begin to be able to notice when what I say, my heart gets crispy. My
Mm,
heart doesn't go right to stone, but the edges get a little crispy.
mm,
Well, the more days I go without examining
mm.
and being examined,
Yeah.
right? It's placing ourselves under the light. And it's like the you can go once a year for your mammogram, but you still do the self-examination.
Yeah.
You don't wait till that. And it's really, really important that you begin to see yourself, though. That's when you see yourself the way God sees you. That's when you have the ability to be obedient, which
Right.
leads to confidence, right? To really place yourself under the
Mm.
examination of the Lord by putting yourself in a position to examine.
Go ahead.
You can't change what you don't see,
That's
and
true.
you can't heal what you don't feel,
Mm,
right? And so, and the other thing I would say, we get used to seeing these things in our lives, these patterns over and over again. And if we could change them in our strength, we would have. And so that's why putting it under the authority and under the light of God is so important, because we are
mhm.
going to need to tap into his power to change us. If we want to do self-leadership, we become aware of something so that we can change it. You're
Right.
going to need the power of the Holy Spirit
Yeah.
to give you what you need to do that.
Yeah, and just patient and gracious with yourself as you do it. It's
Yeah.
you spent your whole life
Yes.
doing things the way you've done them. Things have bothered you your whole life. So give yourself a little grace as you start to self-examine and as you put
Yeah.
things under the light, as you start to pray, create in me a pure heart, cleanse me with hyssop,
Yeah.
make me white as snow. Like, as you're seeking that, be aware it takes time, but you are taking the steps. You are stepping out in faith. You are asking him to do a new work in you, and he will do it. Just give yourself some grace as to the timing of it.
And reach out to Melissa for some good coaching too, because this is where, when you start examining, you might need to pull in a professional,
Yes.
pastor, your trusted best friend to process some things, hiring a coach or something, counseling, whatever it is, you know, that's part of it. That's all part of it.
Sure. That's some of the biggest change and growth for me. Honestly, actually, all of it has come through coaching. Over the years, and it has been the catalyst for some of the most significant changes in my life, my career, my posture, what I feel like I'm capable of, how God wired me, all because I made the investment in myself.
Yes.
To do the work, and then I committed to it, because it's a little painful at times, but it's a good, it is like have you ever scraped your knee as a kid, and your mom's got to clean it out, and it stings and it burns, but you got to get the rocks and the dirt and stuff out. You're cleansing.
Yeah,
and
that's beautiful.
It stings a little bit as you do it. So
for sure.
But it's worth it. Totally worth it.
That's why God gives us, for confidence, a bucket and a shovel, because we've got to do the work.
You got to do the work 100%. So where can listeners connect with you and grab your book, Your Confidence Compass? I don't know why I couldn't say that just now.
CC, your CC. The easiest way is ljallencoaching.com. ljallencoaching.com. The book is there. All my social media information is there. And I'd love to stay connected. I love your audience. I love being in the Facebook group with everybody. So I just have really enjoyed this. So thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.
And I will honor you, because you are such an authentic, I say this privately, I'll say this publicly. You are one of the most intelligent and yet authentic and generous leaders. And you're really good at being safe with people. So thank you for that.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, friend. I appreciate it. You will see more of Lisa around Ministry Chick. I've already tapped her shoulder for a few things. But friend, I hope that you were encouraged by today's conversation with Lisa J. Allen. One thing that really stood out to me, and it has really, I'm looking down at my paper because it was so good. I wrote it down and put a star by it. It was thickening our skin without hardening our heart. And women in ministry, you got to have thick skin, but you don't need a hard heart.
Amen.
So just a gold little star nugget right there. And if you want to connect with Lisa or grab her book, Your Confidence Compass, all the links will be in the show notes. You'll see her around the Ministry Chick Network Facebook group. And if today's conversation stirred something in you, I want to invite you to download our brand new free resource. It's called Stop Playing Small. You were made for more. A simple but powerful guide to help you rediscover your confidence and step boldly into your calling. And remember this, friends, you don't have to lead alone. That's why the Ministry Chick Network exists. And thanks so much for joining us today. We will see you next time on the Ministry Chick Network podcast. Bye-bye.